We can afford it. It makes us different. It makes us feel good. It makes the environment better. It makes it nicer to live in. It gains us respect. They didn't start off 30 years ago with such a defined set of aims and purposes, but over the years that is where they have got to, and despite everything, they are glad that they are where they are today. And so perhaps in your case, in the region and the city, you will be asking yourselves the question, no doubt on a continuing basis, why are we investing in the arts? How much of it is prestige? How much of it is about economic development? How much is it about visitors, about cultural tourism? How good do we want it to be? Will it be really distinctive and excellent? And how will we fund it? Not just when we're building institutions, but the organizations, but when we have to run them. And it is certainly my experience that organizations which address such fundamental questions and address them early, and none of these questions are easy, and I know from what I've heard over the last 48 hours, you have some very difficult questions to answer. All I would say is start discussing them soon and try to answer them even in a provisional way earlier rather than later. Because in management speak, the answer to these questions form the vision for arts policy. And without an agreed vision, the likely, almost inevitable result is confusion. Far better to have some intellectual discussion, confusion now, than to discover that you have a great deal of intellectual confusion later. And without an agreed vision, it's very unlikely that the governance of the arts organizations will work. I apologize for using that word because we established over lunch with Conrad that the word governance is untranslatable in Polish. Now, there are some people who think that it's not even a good English word. It's a strange, well, it's not a hybrid, it's a medieval word, but the fact of the matter is the question of governance is an incredibly important part and a pervasive part of the discussion of arts policies. Now, what does it mean? I think stripped of its jargon, what it does is to define where responsibility for decisions lies, what kind of responsibility lies, and at what levels of the organizations it lies. And again, when it works well, and when you've answered these questions, you have a degree of clarity and accountability, and you avoid confusion. That's not to say that it is always easy to do, but if you ignore it, then everybody regrets it. Let me explain how it worked at the Barbican, which, of course, is not entirely typical, but typical enough. The governance system involves the question of the role of a supervisory board who may be trustees. But if we think of it as a supervisory board, that covers most forms of activity, and an executive board. The supervisory board, in my case, in the Barbican, consisted of elected members of the local council. Their task was to supervise the delivery of the agreed vision. Why did the City of London want to have an art centre at the Barbican at all? To choose the chief executive, myself, my predecessor, my successors, to review the budget in general, to approve and fund capital construction projects, and to warn if the budget was likely to run into deficit. What they were not there for, the supervisory board, was to determine or approve the artistic programme. They did not interfere artistically, and that is crucial. I've sat on a number of supervisory boards, trustees in London. One was an opera company, two were art galleries. On no occasion did the board say, we want to choose the repertoire of the opera company. We want to decide what your next exhibition is going to be. We want to buy this picture rather than that picture. The role of the supervisory board is to be above that. It is also, when it works, to protect the executive, and very often to protect the director. The point behind this is that in Great Britain, the arts have operated under the convention of the so-called arm's length principle. I don't know how that translates into Polish. Okay, you can, yeah, but it's pretty clear. Arm's length. This was established after the Second World War and recommended that even, or especially when, the government gave money to the arts, it left the running of the arts programme to be defined, devised and delivered at arm's length by the arts professionals. In other words, neither government ministers nor local government leaders ever told the arts organisations what kind of arts programme they should put on. And I can only recommend this principle, keeping the arts decisions at arm's length from the funders, or the stakeholders, as we have to say nowadays, has worked triumphantly well in making the arts in Britain what they are today. I was often asked, in my experience at the Barbican, how much does the City of London tell you what to do? What are the objectives? I said the objectives are very, very simple. Number one, don't run a deficit. Number two, bring credit to bear, bring credit to the City of London. Number three, deliver artistic excellence. Number four, don't insult the Lord Mayor.